I can't hear.
Oh, that's
I'm not. I'm not.
hi, everybody.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We're really delighted that you've joined us for the celebration of Sinister Wisdom 138 Lesbian Stories. I'm Judith Katz, a Sinister Wisdom board member and one of the co-editors of this issue, Sinister Wisdom 138. And I have the privilege of guiding us through tonight's gathering. You'll hear from some of our incredible contributors, meet our editors and student collaborators who shaped this collection, and hear conversations with beloved editors who have carried this work forward for decades. We're especially thrilled that Sinister Wisdom 138 is the first of our 50th anniversary issues. And as we begin, I want to acknowledge that we gather tonight from many homelands. Here in Minneapolis, I stand on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Wapektua and Dakota peoples. We honor their sovereignty and the ongoing struggle of Indigenous peoples across this colonized Turtle Island and beyond. I invite each of you to share, if you wish, the land you're joining us from in the chat. Naming and acknowledging place connects us to one another and reminds us that we gather across many homelands and deepen our collective responsibility to the lands and people who hold them. For those joining us for the first time, Sinister Wisdom is a multicultural lesbian literary and arts journal publishing since 1976. And for 50 years, Sinister Wisdom has been a collective effort, a labor of love and resistance. I'm so excited to be part of our collective at such a momentous and important time, and glad you've found your way here with us today. Subscriptions and sustaining support keep this work alive, and we invite you to be part of our community. Sign up for a subscription today by going to sinisterwisdom.org/subscribe. A group of monthly sustainers are vital to Sinister Wisdom. If you can give monthly to Sinister Wisdom, please sign up as a sustainer at sinisterwisdom.org/sustainers. Sinister, you'll get a lot of interesting things because Sinister Wisdom sends out emails every month when your gift comes in with behind the scenes details, new information, and what we have coming for the journal. This season, Sinister Wisdom is delighted to partner with our friends at Karis Books and More in Decatur, Georgia, the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore, celebrating radical voices since 1974. Together with Karis Circle, their nonprofit arm, Karis fosters sustainable feminist communities, works for social justice, and uplifts diverse and marginalized voices. Located next to Agnes Scott College, Karis has just updated its website with new features and rich history, including pieces from Sinister Wisdom. When you're thinking about purchasing books, please support Karis online or in person. We're going to drop that link in the chat. I want to begin by reminding everyone of a few housekeeping notes. We're recording this event this evening, and we will make it available starting tomorrow or Thursday at www.sinisterwisdom.org. And I think we have a YouTube channel as well. Please keep your microphone muted throughout the program unless you're invited to speak. If we detect noise from you, we will mute you. As the program proceeds, you're invited to engage in the chat And if you want to show appreciation for readers, wave your hands at the end of each reading and use reaction emojis on Zoom. If you need technical assistance this evening, you can chat with Max or Julie, they're both on tap for technical assistance. A Sinister Wisdom 138, Lesbian Strangers is right, Lesbian Stories, was going to press. Dorothy Allison died. This was a huge loss for all of us, and we dedicated this issue to Dorothy. It contains a wonderful collection of photographs by Morgan Gwenwald, one of which we're sharing with you now. I know Dorothy's work and writings will inspire us for generations. When Julie Enzer approached me about editing an issue of new lesbian fiction, I knew immediately that I wanted to work on it with my friend Rachel Gold. Likewise, Rachel knew immediately to bring in others, and she recruited Penny Mickelbury, who you'll be hearing from later, and Catherine Forrest, who I think may be out among us in the Zoom rooms, as well as 5 incredible students, 2 of whom are joining us this evening. Rachel, will you join us and read from Notes for a Special Issue and begin the conversation with our student editors?
I would love to. First, let me say a few words about our incredible team of editors. You're going to get to hear Penny's introduction in a few minutes, so I'd like to tell you about the rest of us, in particular, Catherine Forrest, who I'm so grateful that we all got this opportunity to work with Catherine. She's known for writing lesbian classics. She's received the Pioneer Award from Lambda Literary, Publishing Triangle's Lifetime Achievement Award, and the Trailblazer Award from the Golden Crown Literary Society. Supposedly she's retired, but her partner of 34 years can find no evidence of it. And we're very glad about that. Judith, who you've been hearing from, has best known for her work Running Fiercely Toward a High Thin Sound, which won a 1992 Lambda Literary Award for Best Lesbian Fiction. She serves on the Sinister Wisdom Board of Directors, and she's a former professor of mine. Yes, so I'm still sometimes feel like I'm doing my homework. I'm the author of multiple award-winning queer and trans young adult novels. I'm a professor at Macalester College, which is the same college where I was once an undergrad. So I'm watching a new generation of queer and trans students, 2 of whom you're about to meet, pull the same things that I got away with in the 90s. So if we include the contributors to this issue, our team ranges in age from 17 to 86. Nearly 70 years of lesbian, bi, queer women's sapphic and non-binary experience. And I'm going to let you know up front that despite that, we still couldn't get everything we wanted into this issue, but we got a heck of a lot. Lesbian stories, then and now. Tell your truth. With this mantra, these 3 powerful words, Trailblazer extraordinaire Dorothy Allison challenged us to follow her path and seize our identity in our own individual ways. Her legacy is embodied in the 18 extraordinary writers who lay bare for us their own truth in this landmark issue of a legendary historic lesbian publication. These writers are Asian, Black, Latin, and white. Collectively, they hail from an array of ethnicities, countries of origin, ages, disability status, sexual and gender identities. Their stories showcase the commonality and family in our worldwide lesbian communities. In these pages, you'll find yourself in far-flung cities, towns, and countries. You'll visit the dark tragedies of World War II and the AIDS epidemic. You'll be on battlefields and bars and hospitals, on college campuses. You'll witness the marvelous inventions we've created of our lives from hard-won triumphs and our continuing challenges under duress. A complex brew of tragedy and triumph, of fury and defiance and joy. These pages are nothing less than manifestos, a smorgasbord of lesbian lives from writers who mirror our community's extraordinary endurance, persistence, and courage over time. So I hope that gives you a sense for our vision as editors and the possibilities that arose from our work together and the team of interns. That was part of the note for the special issue. You can read the rest of it in the front of your issue. And so now I would love to introduce a couple of these interns to you because they were really central to us surviving this project. If you haven't edited a Sinister Wisdom issue before or another journal, You may not know that many submissions come flooding in, and it was through the interns and their conversations with each other, their agreements and disagreements, their willingness to fight with the editors, and often to agree with us, that this issue really came together and came to life. So I would love to introduce to you Addy Dab, who has a particular interest in intersectional gender studies and the power of storytelling. Addy currently works with Empowerment Collective, a 100% survivor-led organization focused on eradicating forced marriage and forced labor. Wave, Addy. And also Ella, wave Ella, is a junior at Macalester College studying political science, a journalist writing about unions and labor, an organizer with the youth-led climate movement Sunrise. Ella is passionate about storytelling and intergenerational queer spaces and can't wait for you to encounter both in the Lesbian Stories issue of Sinister Wisdom. All right, so we have 4 minutes, team, but I know we can do this. So first off, will you say something you got out of this experience or a high point for you in your involvement? Addy first and then Ella.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I got so much out of this, both in the realm of the content of the stories. I think I got a really interesting mixture of both self-recognition through other people's stories, reading things that I had experienced that I'd never really been able to put into words before, but reading people who put it perfectly into words and really seeing myself in that. But also on the other side, kind of getting a better sense of the breadth of lesbian experience and reading a bunch of things that I realized I didn't personally relate to, but that I really appreciated seeing expressed on the page so that I could understand those differences and be able to, you know, be a better builder of lesbian community across those differences. I also think one of the best things I got out of it was a better sense of what editing means. I came in with this idea that editing is like looking for every little thing that's wrong with something and kind of being very nitpicky. And through working with Catherine and Penny, they imparted their wisdom upon me, and I came to the understanding that it's more about seeing what, like trying to understand the vision of what an author is trying to create and understanding where the disparities lie between what they've actually created and what they're trying to create and connecting with them through that. And I think that that not only helped me with editing, but also helped me with reading and with being able to connect more with the narratives.
Yeah, and while I was editing some stories as like the other interns were, most of what I was doing for the issue was Q&As with Judith, Penny, and Rachel, the editors. And that was just an incredible experience. And something that this issue very much centers is intergenerational conversation, which there isn't always a lot of in the queer community, because like we're not always born into families with other queer people, and most of the time we aren't. And so that sort of intergenerational conversation with other lesbians, other queer people was not something I had experienced much before. And I got to do these really in-depth interviews with the editors and hear about their life and their career and their identities and their thoughts on politics and everything like that. And these editors just have so much rich life experience that I loved getting to hear and connect with. And just like getting to have those conversations and share our experiences, like that was really special. Um, and like Judith and Rachel and I are all based in Minneapolis, and Judith and I went and got coffee after. And it was like I think the barista was confused what this 20-year-old and older like Jewish lesbians were doing, like meeting up at this coffee shop, having very obviously only talked to each other once before. But it was all just a lovely experience, and like really important connections to make.
And I believe a couple of those interviews are up on the Sinister Wisdom site, and a couple are still to be posted. So tune in, fans, if you want to see more of Ella's interviewing work with the editors. That will be coming down the line. Okay, next question for both of you. Same order, Addy and then Ella. What do you want the other generations to know about your generation?
I think the main thing that I would love the older generations to know about our generation is just how grateful we are for everything that the older generations have done to, like, the work of trailblazing, the work of pushing boundaries and expectations so that my generation can have the freedom to express ourselves as freely as we can today. Obviously, that freedom still has its limits, but I think that there's a rapidity to which my generation is able to evolve our understandings of and even create new forms of Sapphic culture through these open public community spaces, whether it's on social media or even in-person spaces that just there's like, I feel like constantly new things that we're creating that are new signifiers of Sapphic culture, new like types of spaces, new ways to connect. And these are this openness and this dialogue is truly only possible because of everything that the older generations have done to make it possible. So just, I think the main thing I want to say is thank you.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo all of that. I think a very important part of lesbian identity for me is like like that history of activism, and that's something that I very much try to like honor the legacy of and do myself, because like like the rights that my generation has we wouldn't have if it wasn't for the generations that come before us. um, and I think that another thing that I really want other generations to know about ours is that even though there isn't currently a lot of connection between the generations, like we want to connect, we want to um, get coffee, get tea, get to know each other. And I think like even if that's not something that's directly on the mind of people in my generation, like it's just such a sweet, lovely experience that I think that very much most of us would appreciate if we have the chance to. And I think like creating those spaces and reaching out to form those connections is something that we all want.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to add in here that I don't know of a single queer student or in general or an intern on this project who's like, no, don't connect me with queer elders, right? Like you all have been very excited to be part of the history, part of the lineage. Okay, we have time for a third question. I know you didn't expect it, but luckily we prepped a third question. And I want to say a little bit in this process, there were we had a lot of different kinds of stories that we wanted to see. Some of them we got a lot of, some of them we didn't, right? I think we had some pretty deep discussions about what was missing. So with that in mind, someday if there's a lesbian stories too, what would you want to see in it? What maybe didn't get into this issue that we want to see in a future issue?
I mean, I think there's so much. There's an infinity to lesbian stories. Um, I think something that I would love to see is more stories about how Sapphic identity impacts things outside of like relationships and sex and the things that are typically thought of within that realm. Like, I think that my Sapphic identity has had a huge impact on how I form friendships, and especially what that looked like growing up before I was really coming to terms with my identity. And I'd love to see more stories about that because that's something I didn't exactly see reflected. I also just think it'll be really interesting to see how, especially in the age of social media, I feel like queer identity is evolving so much that depending on how far in the future lesbian stories too is, I'd love to see what stories evolve that like haven't even happened yet, or that, I think that there will be a big shift in even the types of stories. Like, I think that it'll keep opening up, and I hope that a few years down the line, we're able to see even more stories that we're not, that we haven't seen even evolve yet. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'll absolutely echo that. I think that stories, I think that like for me, like my lesbian identity impacts so many things in my life. And I think stories about how people's identity impact their activism and politics, the role of care in their life, going about life and with attention to the small things, I think could be really beautiful to see. And I think that something else I would add is that from what I remember, there were a lot of stories or a lot of submissions from people of my generation and a lot of submissions from older people, and not a lot of submissions from middle aged lesbians, which are a group that I haven't like encountered much in my life, and so I think that like what what lesbian life looks like at that age is something that I don't know a lot about, and would be really lovely to have in a lesbian stories too.
Fantastic. All right, so writers in the audience, you've heard the requests. We've all got our homework now. So in wrapping up, I really want to thank you too. I want to thank our other 3 interns. We just had it was such an amazing team to be able to have 4 editors and 5 interns, bringing so many different perspectives. And readers, in the back of this issue of Sinister Wisdom, you will find an interview with all 5 of the interns. And you'll find more input from us as the editors and what we were thinking in terms of the issue. So if you loved this part of the conversation, please go look in the back of your issue and read the rest of the interview. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. And Addy and Ella, it was really kind of cool to see you again, and I'm up for tea or coffee anytime. So that was wonderful. And now I'm excited to introduce Maria Ramil, a femme lesbian poet and writer from so-called Miami, Florida. Marina's work has appeared in Sinister Wisdom, American Literary Review, and many other publications. Tonight, Marina will be reading their piece, Inevitabilities, from this issue. So please join me in welcoming Marina Ramil.
Hello. This is an excerpt from Inevitabilities. John and Maggie are the only 2 lesbians in this grocery store, as far as they are aware, and that makes them inevitable somehow. Maggie is an old-fashioned revival femme with ratted and set curls of bottle blonde that shine under the fluorescence. She stares at John from across the produce, marveling at how their carabiner bumps against their hip. John is staring at their phone, reading a text from Anne, the elder butch, who dubbed them John for the apostle, the youngest, patron of love and against envy. John and Anne bartend together at the city's lone dyke bar. Texts from Anne make John smile, like when their hips bump up against each other accidentally behind the bar. Despite this, I want to write a story where John takes Maggie's number after watching her reapply cherry red lip gloss using her vague reflection in the glass doors of the frozen aisles as a mirror. John texts Maggie to come by during their Friday night shift and mentions offhandedly it's a save a horse, ride a cowgirl themed night. Maggie comes in with tits glittered and pushed up like Dolly. Anne whistles at her from behind the bar, which makes John feel confused and warm. Maggie orders a gin soda and sips it quietly, watching John shake and stir and flirt all night. After they clock out, John asks to drive Maggie home and ends up covered in her glitter in the backseat of their old sedan. When Maggie is on top of them, John wonders what it would feel like to be on top of Anne. Despite this, I want to write a story where John and Maggie spend the next few months eating takeout, sitting on the floor of each other's apartments, and making fun of each other's taste in music on car rides. Maggie has a headache one day and asks John what they want in the long term. John says they don't know, but that's a lie. Eventually, Maggie and John tire of having roommates and move in together. Even later, Maggie and John tire of simply being guests at all of their friends' alternative, backyard, quirky, cheap city hall weddings. With a glimmering lab-made jewel set in a princess cut finally on Maggie's finger, they throw their own alternative, backyard, quirky, cheap city hall wedding. Anne attends gleefully with her wife and gifts the newlyweds a durable but affordable blender. When John says their vows, they look out at Anne in the crowd. Despite this, I want to write a story where Maggie and John stay together longer than any of their friends do, maybe even forever. If you're left unsatisfied by that, I can write you a story where John turns up at Anne's house the night they buy the lab-made jewel set in the princess cut for Maggie. It's raining outside, and John's floppy 90s heartthrob middle part hair is soaked and plastered to their forehead. They stand there after ringing the doorbell with their hands in their pockets. They ask Anne to run away with them. Anne laughs and hugs them and says no. Anne has a happy life. She loves her wife. She loves John too, but in a different way. She reminds John how young they are, and tears brim in their eyes petulantly. And that's that. Actually, the 2 stories end the same way, except in this one, Anne doesn't get a wedding invitation. Maggie never finds out about that rainy night. There's another version of this story rattling around in my head where John has already grown old with Maggie when they meet Anne. Anne is young and single in this one. If I shake my head to the point of dizziness, I can hear John's dreams. In them, they're a young Butch again. Anne picks up on John's rhythms, the way they shake a whiskey sour, the smiles they give the single patrons, the bathroom they haven't been able to go into since they cut their shoulder climbing out the window during a raid. In this version, everything about John is colored by the bar raids. I must want to write this story because I am sick in the head. The Anne of this version starts to move like John. Their hips never bump. They move like foosball figures behind that sticky bar. John must be sick in the head too, because they see themselves young again in Anne and want to reach out and touch that simpler visage. John offers to drive Anne home one night after work. They call Maggie to tell her they'll be home late. They walk Anne to the door. This time, it's an apartment with roommates instead, but it's still raining, and drops of rain dot John's buzzed scalp if you look closely. Again, they ask Anne to run away with them. In this story, Anne thinks about it hard. When Anne tells John, is between them. Anne quits bartending soon after. John retires. Don't make me tell the one in which Anne agrees. Don't make me tell any that have gratuitous violence. Don't make me spell out the sex of it all. Don't make any one of these characters out to be the villain or hero. If you didn't like any of the stories I wrote for you, that's fine, I guess. I can give you a really different ending. And the rest you'll read in 138.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marina. Thanks very much. Our next reader is Virginia Black, and Virginia writes speculative fiction. Her third novel, Incendient, was released very recently by Bywater Books, which is also my publisher. You can keep up with her work through her blog, which is linked in the chat with her bio. Tonight, she'll read from her piece, Sola. Virginia, welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much. This work of speculative fiction is set within a triad of worlds around a single star. Jennifer looks to the sky again, where Sola's human form has darkened and collapsed in on itself to form a perfect orb. The shape expands quickly until it becomes a small black moon surrounded by a ring of fiery solar flares. This form is my favorite, Jennifer says without thinking. Mine as well, the woman says. The union of light and dark in equal measure. The noise of the surrounding crowds cannot dispel the magic of the moment, the companionship and quiet fascination. Something tightens in Jennifer's chest, the pulse of long-forgotten memories, as the dark moon rises ever higher in the heavens. I used to come with my family, but they're all gone now. Gone for over a decade. Her parents had been her only family, and an accident had claimed them when Jennifer had been barely out of her teens. Nostalgia at times past, not melancholy, softens Jennifer's words. I have been too busy with work to observe the rising in many years, and I'm happy to have made the journey. Here in the dark is the place to say things she would never reveal in the light. Is it the shimmer or this woman that offers the safety of secrets? Then I, too, am happy you have come, is the woman's response. Has Jennifer ever met a woman like this, so self-possessed and yet somehow innocent? She has the bearing of a priest, though she does not wear the robes. Instead, her layered gray tunic seems simple compared to much of the attire in the pavilion. A temple acolyte? An attendant? No, the way the fabric falls over her chest, exposing skin and full curves, is far from modest. And where have you come from? Jennifer asks. The woman has the look of the northerners on Geddes Prima. Something in the shoulders and the shape of her head hints at capability in the conquering of rough terrain. The woman starts at Jennifer's words, and several breaths pass before she speaks. A bit of everywhere, I suppose. An answer, and yet not. The enigma of this woman is as entertaining as her appearance, her voice. They watch without speaking as the moon ascends, its flares arcing across the skies. Jennifer straightens her robe and pockets the forgotten tin of shimmer. She has also forgotten to introduce herself. I'm called Jennifer. The woman bows to the waist, a formal gesture that seems stilted, unpracticed, but Jennifer hides a smile as the woman holds the position, awaiting a response. So noble, Jennifer says, impressed despite herself. And how shall I call you? When the woman rises, Jennifer notices how tall she is. The breeze falls and the night stills. Above, the moon flares a little brighter and the woman is cast deeper in shadow. I am called Sola, the woman says. Jennifer cannot help her laughter, nor can she seem to taper it. Only the pious or free-spirited, unconventional nonconformists name their children after the goddess. It's cliché, and this woman seems far too something to be riddled with such a common name. Sola's brow furrows in confusion, but then to Jennifer's immense pleasure, she smiles. Even white teeth shine in the dark, and her face changes from cool reservation to welcoming warmth. Her smile is more intoxicating to Jennifer than the shimmer. A cheer rises outside the courtyard as the shadows gain definition. Above them, the dark moon that is Sola the goddess begins to brighten, signaling the next transition. Without a word, Sola bows again before Jennifer, who hesitates over a response as Sola blends into the shadows behind the lounger and disappears beyond the hedges. Lonely in her wake, Jennifer wishes Sola the woman had stayed. The sunlight intensifies as Sola the goddess takes her final form, the sun that will blaze for another year. Jennifer's vision is blurred by the glow and by the shimmer. And as it has been for countless thousands of years and will be for thousands more, Sola shines over all.
Thank you so much, Virginia. That was like really, really, really lovely.
Thank you.
So stories live not only in words, but also in images. And to reflect on the power of this cover, we're going to listen to a conversation between Penny Mickelbury, one of our editors, and La from Stuff Studio, who designed the cover. Penny is a former journalist for the Washington Post and ABC TV in DC, who left journalism to become an award-winning novelist and playwright. She's known for creating 2 groundbreaking African-American mystery heroines and continues to write from her home in LA. La from Stuff Studio is Black, queer, somatic, and narrative therapist, multidisciplinary artist. They create narrative games centering Black, trans, queer, and neurodivergent stories and lead community workshops that honor oral traditions and the sacred art of call and response. Penny and Law, there you go.
And here we are. Hello.
Hi, Law, how are you? It is always such a pleasure to engage with you, and especially to hear you talk about your brilliant work. So talk to me about the inspiration that you got to create the magnificent cover that you did for this issue of Sinister Wisdom.
Well, I believe that art is conversation, right? Stories happen in conversation. And so that's exactly what happened with this cover. It began with a conversation. I was curious about, what was the content of this powerful issue? What was important to all of the editors and all of the contributors of this issue? What was the story overall that was trying to be told? And in that conversation, I really was able to see the intergenerational part, the multicultural part that came forward, and then just the act of living and resisting and being, right? Breathing as an act of joy and resistance. And so this piece is from which the cover was derived is called "We Will Not Wait to Love Ourselves." In this climate, right, and in a continual climate, this is not new, but in this current dumpster fire that we're in, it can be so, I don't know, we can be so pulled to want to wait to experience joy. And so I wanted to highlight just the stillness of a moment where we're choosing to stop and celebrate love, to steal a kiss, to hold on to something that we know, rather than being caught up in the franticness of what we don't know.
And it's brilliant, it's beautiful. And I, of course, am enthralled by the fact that you saw a woman of beauty of what I will call a certain age, a woman who reflects me, but with the sign, the resistance, the will, and the strength and the courage to not quit
Yeah.
because we can't.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that luxury. And to get that kind of insight from one so young as yourself empowers me, and I hope empowers all of those who see the cover of this issue and read the stories from women of all generations,
Mm-hmm.
that there's no quit in us. And
There isn't.
it isn't. And your vision makes it all so much more beautiful. Thank you.
Absolutely. One of the things that I really enjoyed about creating this is all the little details, right? We can like see the set down purse. There is medicine falling out, right? The cane is off to the side. And there's something really powerful about the stillness of setting things aside and being present, right? And there's also something, there's kind of like a dynamic in that sign of like, we're still fighting. Some of that can seem like, oh, we're tired. Why are we still here? How are we still beating the same drum over and over again? But there's also a bit of romance in that. Like, we are still here. We're still alive. We're still present. We're still fighting. We cannot afford to stop. Neither do we want to.
And we still love.
And we still love. And we're not
Always.
good. Yes. So I
Thank
appreciate being a part of this project.
We appreciate having you be a part of it.
Oh, yeah.
And keep on keeping on, La.
Well, I have no other choice but to.
That is true. That is true. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Penny and Law, for showing us that even a cover can be its own kind of archive. Now I'm delighted to welcome Sophie Warrick. Sophie describes herself as a fat femdyke who adores sharing stories and getting to know people's simple joys in life. She works across zine making, photography, and visual media to document and celebrate the everyday. Zine's contribution remind us that lesbian storytelling is not bound by one format. So please join me in welcoming Sophie.
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you. I'm going to be reading this short story that I wrote titled Looking for Fat Queers. It originally was in this zine format here, and I really have circulated it for the last few years, and so I'm excited that it's going to be it's in the issue. So I'll just read it now. I've always been fat. I was the little kid that tried so many sports and wasn't that great at them because I could never keep up with everyone else. I knew that the most slimming color to wear was black and that boiled chicken was worth 0 points. Living in a rural town, I had a long bus ride after school. I would get off the bus at 3:52, just in time for my favorite daytime talk show. The host was the first gay person I ever saw in media. At the time, she was a gay icon, and her talk show was renowned by many for its joy, dancing, and fun, an advocate of kindness and gay rights. And as I watched people win the 12 days of giveaways, I would open my phone, scrolling through Instagram, to see girls post photos of themselves with their boyfriends. I would think about my guy friends and be bummed out that none of them were cute enough, that none of them were boyfriend material. Then I'd open Google and type, "Am I gay quiz?" And I can't even count how many times I took that stupid quiz. After receiving my results, I would continue to eat my light Yoplait yogurt that was only worth 2 points, and watch the thin, slender woman dance around her TV show and talk about her wonderful wife, Portia, and I wished that I could have a love as strong as theirs. But now I know more about the talk show host. I don't consider her a role model, and definitely not a gay icon for myself. I saw online today that her talk show has ended due to a toxic work environment. I've also learned that assigning points to food is dumb. It's kind of funny and weird how the world works. I came out as fat and queer in college. Sometimes people think that since fatness is so visible, that there is no need for fat people to come out as fat. However, I was the first fat and queer person that I ever met, and now I'm looking for more. Fat queers, I see you, and it's so nice to meet you. And if you've ever taken an Am I Gay quiz, you probably are.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we're going to conclude this evening with a pre-recorded conversation between Penny and Carla Trujillo. We really, really wanted Carla to join us this evening to read from her wonderful story, Because She's Family. That's in Sinister Wisdom 138, but she's out of the country right now. This recorded conversation, however, highlights Carla's contributions to Chicana lesbian feminism canon, as well as reflections on that story from this issue. So here we go. Yes? Good.
Yeah, I edited a anthology called Chicana Lesbians, The Girls Our Mothers Warned Us About. And when that came out, got invited to give talks around the country. And people, through the years, I used to sort of realize that I was the Chicana lesbian representative. And I was out pretty much because of that anthology. And, every time I went to, anytime there was a writer's conference, it would be usually me and this other guy, I think it was Rudy Busto. And so those two were out, and myself. And so it was kind of fun and contributors to the anthology that I edited and have done a lot, I think, for the Chicana lesbian community. They just kept inviting us because a lot of people, with the exception of Gloria Zaldúa and Cherie Moraga. And Cherie Moraga is still around, and I think is still one of the writers who's given a lot of and deserves a lot of very, very fine recognition for the work she's done. Cherie Moraga and I co-started this group called La Familia on campus way, way back in the day to help students who were wanting to come out or questioning their sexuality. And we started that group. And then there were other students who, I think were glad I was there and I was out and supportive to them. And whether or not they were queer, I think they were glad I was there. So thank you for asking that. Who, a queer cousin, and all I heard was that his mother was coming out from Colorado to visit him, to visit her dying son. I wanted to know more about it, and my parents refused to talk to me about him. The fury of homophobia, the fury that was thrown at me by both of my parents, particularly my father, was really damaging. And so I didn't know really what to do, and I was flummoxed about trying to do something to support this cousin, which I never could. And I felt bad about it, so I wrote about it. And that's how the story was generated.
What messages do you want to pass on to the generation, like my generation and the generations coming behind me?
Quitting is not an option. The representation is not there. It's not there in publishing. It's not there in academia. It's not there culturally. It's as if we still remain an afterthought of some kind, or a grudging acceptance. Well, you're here. You're still here? Oh, okay. Yeah, we are. And I don't know what we do about that, especially in the current climate. Going back into the closet is not the answer.
So I think it's important to support younger writers and help them and help each other, help us help each other too, because I'm still writing and I've just finished a novel and I've got working on a sequel to my first novel. So I think we can't stop resisting and we can't go back. We have to stay strong and stay smart and find ways to organize and continue fighting and for representation and for our existence.
Thank you. That's Mel. Mel Oliver did the editing on that, and I want to thank both Penny and Carla for that great conversation. So we have a few more minutes than we thought that we had, and I think it would be great, Rachel, if you'd come back for a minute or two, and we can just talk about, what maybe you and I are hoping to get from the response to this issue. So why don't you hop back on? There you are.
I'm here.
Okay.
So I feel like since Penny's also on, can we rope Penny in?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
let's
Penny
get
should be part of this conversation as well.
Yeah, great.
So, here we all are. I'm old. You're younger than me, but kind of tiring on old, and so then Penny, here we all are. And for me, one of the things of recognizing myself as an elder and the making of this particular issue of the journal was really the thought that I had that I really wanted to bring younger work to the forefront. So I'm just wondering, like, what the two of you were hoping to get out of this issue, and we have a few minutes to talk about that. Either of you may begin.
And I'm so trying not to crack the joke of like having never edited before, I was hoping to survive, which I've done. So success. But I think, I very much appreciated that you came to me because you wanted an intergenerational issue. I think that's kind of dear to all of our hearts. I hope, I don't know, Penny, nod if I'm on track. So I think that what I was hoping was to actually break the bounds in some places for what we think a lesbian story is. So, readers will find some stories in this issue are very clearly, kind of the classic lesbian story. It's in a lesbian bar, someone's coming out, that kind of thing. And we have some lovely examples of lesbian stories. And then I think we also have some that do start to push the edges. I think you heard some of them tonight.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely. So that's my hope, is that we'll, think beyond maybe what any of us individually think a lesbian story is and expand that territory.
Right. Well, and I'm going back to Marina's story, which, it's like I could write this story. I could write that story. I could write this story. Maybe I should write this story. And that's talking, I think, exactly to what you're talking about, Rachel, and in some ways what Addy was talking about in the conversation. It's like, and when she was talking about different forms of stories, I kind of went also to the way that our other two readers kind of are making stories, either what the stories are about, like Virginia's, or like Sophie's form of how to write a story, and then also going to the ways in which law is using the internet, not the internet, but digital media to create new things. So in that way, I feel very satisfied that there is a future in queer and lesbian literature. Penny, what do you think?
I agree 100%. Working with your young students, Rachel, was eye-opening for me. I have taught children, and when I was in Los Angeles and I worked for the adult literacy program, I helped adults learn to read. But listening to and working with your students was eye-opening for me because they know stuff. They just
Yes, they do.
they just know stuff. And I would make a suggestion about something, and one of them would say, well, no, you don't have to do that. So I'd go, okay, why not? And there would be an excellent reason for why not. So I'm like, okay, fine. Let you do this. Let's do this and let's roll with it. And you take the lead and let me learn from you. And really, quite frankly, unless I thought this is just not going to work, they were running it, and they are brilliant, and they are, not only do they know stuff, but they know how to get stuff done. They know how to do it. They know how to tell you how to do it. And I thought, how, what a good time you must have every day working with them. I was impressed. I learned from them. It was a high point for me to be able to be in that environment with young people who just they don't have the fears that we had. They don't have the worry that we had that somebody was going to find out you like girls. Um, and then that's going to be the end of your career or some such nonsense. They're wonderful. And I learned so much. And I thank you and Catherine and Judith for letting me do this, because you guys are the teachers and the editors, and I just kind of, been putting words on paper for a long time.
And with Catherine not here, I just want to add in that certainly for
Yes.
me, Catherine provided a great deal of sanity, an immense amount of sanity. Calmed me down a lot in the times when editing felt scary. So I feel like in a lot of ways, Catherine was the anchor to our team.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I so appreciate everything that she brought. She did a lot of editing. She's the one who chose the order for the stories, and wrote most of the note for the issue. So just really, I don't think we could have done this without Catherine.
No.
We couldn't have done it without either of you as well. And I think I'm going to say one last thing, and then I'll be done. I know, Penny, that you see this younger generation as in some ways bolder, or more out there. I wouldn't say bolder, but more out there than your generation. But they're certainly very scared. A lot of my students are very scared. And seeing you and Judith and Catherine, seeing this older generation, everyone in the chat who is over the age of honestly 28, you are elders. Because my students have said 28 was like the oldest other queer person yet. Right. Anyone over 28 is a queer elder. And it's just so important to show that we're here and we're surviving. And I think that's a lot of, we're surviving, we're celebrating, and we're centering love, like La said. I think that's a lot of what this issue is about.
Right.
It is.
So,
And that we stand on their shoulders as much as they stand on ours.
right. And I think that is absolutely right. And I think I just want to thank both of you, Catherine, again. And I really want to thank the young editors, but also mostly I want to thank all the contributors. And there probably is enough for a second Lesbian Stories issue at some point after we get through the gigantic amount of ambition and ambitious issues that our fearless leader, Jill Yenzer, has laid out. So I think we're getting close to the end of our time together. Is that Julie, will you nod? Okay, thank you. So here I go with the closing. Everyone, we are nearing the end of our time together. So I want to thank Sinister Wisdom's event team member, Mel Oliver, for producing this video and also writing this fabulous script, so that I didn't have to think too much. I could just be, here for everyone. And so I appreciate that a lot. So that we were able to hear from Carla. I want to really, again, thank Rachel, the interns, Addy and Ella for coming. Ella is broadcasting all the way from Chile tonight. And to thank our readers, Marina, Virginia, Sophie, and Last Stuff Studio. And like I said before, all of you contributors. And thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. And thank you and a shout out to our sustainers and donors for your support. It's wonderful to be with you all and think with you all. If you don't already have a copy of Sinister Wisdom 138, Lesbian Stories, please order one online from Sinister Wisdom. Also, you can support the creative work of Belle Pitkin and Sinister Wisdom by purchasing the amazing, I'm going to hold it in front of my face, the amazing Sinister Wisdom 2026 calendar. And we're going to put a link in the chat for that. The video from this evening's event, it will be available on the Sinister website and YouTube tomorrow or Thursday, and there's a link for that in the chat. And if you know anybody that couldn't actually make this event tonight, I'm gonna suggest that you send them a link, because I think this was a really good conversation. We have so much fall Zoom goodness still to come. And speaking as a board member, I think everyone should enjoy it. Some of the most interesting conversations that I've heard, even before I was on the board, have been through these launches and special events on Zoom from Sinister Wisdom. And again, I really want to thank Julie for thinking so big about what it means to be a lesbian journal. So anyway, next up on Tuesday, November 4th at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, we're going to celebrate the launch of this calendar with Belle Pitkin, and you can keep up with us at sinisterwisdom.org /events. This season, there's a few differences in how the launches are going. Like, for example, the seat I'm in tonight is usually occupied by Julie, and she's sharing the love. We're also, I know some of you Old Faithfuls are going to be sad, but we're changing the song. Tonight, everybody's going to dance to Mary Watkins's classic lesbian hit, Brick Hut. Some of you will remember that song, and many of you, welcome to the fabulous world of 1970s and 80s lesbian culture. So Max, let the music begin. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Judith.
What do you do when your love Thank you all so much. We will see you at our next event.